Well, good afternoon. I say good afternoon. I've been messing about. This is one of my plastic boxes. Come on up here. I've been messing about for most of the morning, sorting out Daisy's bedroom in there. Daisy being my eldest granddaughter. And meaning to get this video posted up, but wanted just to say a few words first of all, on video, on camera. So, I'm not too sure if I mentioned it in my previous video, but my youngest daughter purloined the blue poncho. So, hold on, wait a minute, darling, let me just grab this. So I've been knitting a new poncho. Yeah, probably bad angle there. So that's what I've been doing when I've been sitting down and relaxing. And the work in the garden has slowed down a wee bit because there's been rain and more rain, which has been lovely. Because the garden had got very dry. I think we went for about 3 weeks without water, without rain. And I know the spring well, not the one in the Fairywood, but the one up on the hill that feeds the cottage. That had begun to run very low, and I could hear when I ran off water in the cottage that the tank in the loft wasn't filling. So hey ho, the rain came and it has been marvellous in our eyes. I think Queen Elizabeth I said something like that. Now there was a woman who was not to be reckoned with. Love her or hate her. Which brings me to a little story I want to tell you about my grandmother. So one of the things, I'm just sticking my feet up on the coffee table here, making myself nice and comfortable for this little trip down memory lane. One of the things that brings to mind my grandmother is when I hear any woman, any woman, talk about, women's rights and feminism and, all the stuff that I've struggled with all my life as well. But I recall my grandmother, who was born in 1901, telling me when I was about 15, and I think it was like a little story that she felt she needed to tell me in order for me to be able to sort of gird my loins against the travesty of the world that a lot of women were very subjugated in, And certainly was the way in 1974 when I got married, I can tell you. Couldn't even hold a bank account in my own name. But anyway. So, I'll cut the story very brief because I'd like to keep most of it for the book about my grandmother. Yeah, wisdom. She and my granddad walked out, as they called it in those days, for quite some time. So he went off to fight in World War I and came back, and the 1916 Rising was about to happen here in Ireland, and she would have been in her 20s a short time after. But anyway, they got married, and she told me that off they went to a town called Bundoran in County Donegal, and there was a big hotel on the corner as you drove into Bundoran, and called O'Gorman's. Anyway, the long and short of it was there was a tea dance on that afternoon, and of course my granny and granddad wouldn't have gone up to the room, you see, because she didn't do any consummation. You didn't do the deed in daylight. You waited for night time. Anyway, so my nana says, "Oh, Colette, I love to dance. There was nothing more that I loved to do than to dance." So they went into the tea dance. My granddad wouldn't dance with her. He was obviously shook to the core, you know. Gotta consummate this. And, you know, because most women who got married were virgins, you know. Anyway, that's exactly the point I'm getting to. So, long story short, I keep saying this, don't I? But like, she did actually flesh the story out with all the details. Well, not the details of the consummation, but anyway. And anyway, this young guy came up and asked her to dance because he could see that she was sat there and my granddad wasn't dancing with her. And before she could open her mouth, my granddad said, "No!" to this young fella. The young fella went off like in shock. You know, you don't behave like that in Ireland, you know. But anyway, I said to my granny then, I said, "What did you do?" Because she was obviously showing signs of remembered outrage at this. She said, "I'll tell you what I didn't do." But I thought, what do you mean didn't do? And she leaned over and she said, "I was a virgin 6 weeks after that wedding." And it didn't really dawn on me at 15. I didn't have a clue. Because girls were kept in the dark quite a lot, you know. But when I got married myself, and I remembered the story, oh, I laughed. In fact, me and my husband both laughed. We just laughed for ages about that. It became like a standing joke. And it was like verging on the ridiculous, you know. But my grandmother was more of a woman's liber than any other woman I've ever come across in my entire life. Because she wasn't, you know, talking my granddad down or being in any way militant about herself or her stand on things. But it was the old story, you know, actions speak louder than words. And that's precisely what she did. And she refused to discuss it with him. He had to basically how should we put it, work her around to the notion that he respected her and he loved her and he wasn't going to tread on her. And they had a very happy marriage, and he adored her. He adored her. She was a bit of a rascal because she always got her own way, but she did it in a kind of a feminine, motherly type of way. She even looked a wee bit like the Queen Mother, actually, when I visualise her. She was always smiling, you know, and sweet. Beneath that smiling, sweet exterior lay a woman who knew her own mind. So this is really a story about ageism. At least I think it relates very much to ageism, because I think that women feel more or are led to believe that they're more disempowered as they get older. Well, I'm not going to say again what age I'm going to be this year. You all know what age I'm going to be in October. But I feel more and more empowered, you know? I'm not in a militant, you know, striding up and down, oh, you know, you won't get me. I'm not like that. Just, I feel quite relaxed in my own power. I know what I want. I know what I don't want. I know what I'm about to tolerate. I try not to be too sentimental about things. I try to live in the moment. And age is something which is incredibly empowering. Okay? That's what I want to tell all you women who are younger than me, or who haven't maybe found your own power yet. Keep on keeping on. Your power is within you. You just got to let it out. Think about it. It could be just in the way you talk, the way you walk, the way you look at people. Women are incredibly powerful. And my wee 5'2" nothing granny was something else. It has been raining here at Beaton Cottage for about 48 hours steady. But it's been fantastic for the flowers and the plants and the trees. So I've got to say thank you, rain. I anticipate masses, perhaps tons of apples this year. The Aquilegia is just ready to burst open. Sadly, the frost, which happened, I think it was Thursday, has got to the pieras, but I don't worry too much about that because there'll be lots of new growth. Yeah, there will.